Have you ever wondered how fragile our reality is? How a single moment, a single decision can create ripples that change the world forever? Historians call it a point of divergence. What if the evacuation at Dunkirk had failed? What if Operation Barbarossa had succeeded before the Russian winter set in? What if Germany had won World War II? It is a chilling thought, one that forces us to confront a reality that was terrifyingly close. In this video, we'll journey into that alternate timeline, a world reshaped by a victorious Third Reich, and explore the profound changes that would echo into our present day. The first and most visible change would be the map itself. Europe would not exist as a continent of diverse nations, but as the core of the Greater Germanic Reich. Hitler's vision of Lebensraum, or living space, would be brutally realized. This wasn't just about redrawing borders, it was a demographic and cultural genocide. The infamous Generalplan Ost would be in full effect. Millions of Slavs in Poland, Ukraine, and Russia would be systematically exterminated, starved, or forced into slavery to make way for German colonists. Great Britain, battered into submission, would likely exist as a demilitarized puppet state, its global empire dismantled and its Royal Navy seized by the Kriegsmarine. The United States, having lost its allies, would be in an impossible position. Facing a German-controlled Atlantic and a Japanese-dominated Pacific, it would be forced into a humiliating peace. Isolationism would no longer be a choice but a necessity for survival. Meanwhile, Germany's Axis partners would consolidate their own spheres of influence. This would not be a lasting peace, but merely the prelude to an inevitable Cold War between two ruthless expansionist empires, fighting for ultimate global supremacy. Life for the average person would be dictated by one thing: blood. Nazi racial ideology would be the law of the land, creating a brutal caste system. This wasn't just about borders. At the pinnacle would be the Übermenschen, the master race of pure-blooded Aryans, and at the very bottom the Untermenschen, Jews, Slavs, Romani, and others, who would have no rights, no freedom, and no future. From birth, children would be indoctrinated by the Hitler Youth, taught to revere the Führer and despise the enemy. The Gestapo's shadow would loom over every home, with neighbors encouraged to spy on neighbors. Free thought would be a crime. Art, film, and literature that didn't glorify the Reich would be labeled degenerate and burned. Science would be perverted to serve the state, with horrific eugenics programs and human experimentation becoming commonplace in the name of racial purity. A society built on bloodlines would crush creativity, dissent, and the basic dignity of millions. A victorious Reich, with the resources of an entire continent at its disposal, would have accelerated its push for technological supremacy. Germany was already a pioneer in jet aircraft and rocketry. Imagine skies dominated not by propeller planes but by fleets of Messerschmitt. Mi-262S cities across the globe would live in fear of long-range ballistic missiles, an evolution of the V-2 rocket. A sprawling, heavily guarded research facility powered by slave labor could accelerate inventions that, in our timeline, were delayed or prevented. The most terrifying prospect, however, would be the Nazi atomic bomb. In our timeline, the German nuclear program faltered due to infighting and the exile of brilliant Jewish scientists. In this alternate reality, without those exiles and with unlimited resources, it is conceivable they would have developed it first. A world living under the threat of a nuclear monopoly held by a regime built on hate is a scenario almost too dark to contemplate. But even in the darkest night, stars still shine. Oppression breeds resistance. Brave student groups like the White Rose in our timeline would secretly print and distribute anti-Nazi leaflets. Partisans would sabotage factories and supply lines. The fight for freedom would transform into a shadow war. The unconquered remnants of the world, perhaps led by the isolated United States, would become the lifeline for this resistance. They would smuggle weapons, funds, and agents into Fortress Europe, fueling a global, multi-generational struggle. It would be a world of spies, secret armies, and quiet heroes, fighting a desperate war for the soul of humanity. This alternate timeline is a world built on hate, ruled by fear, and defined by perpetual conflict. The world we inhabit today was saved from that abyss. The Allied victory was not just a military triumph, it was a reaffirmation of freedom, democracy, and the fundamental value of every human life. Exploring this what if is not an exercise in fiction. It is a solemn reminder of the price of freedom and the importance of remembering our past, because the history we know was not guaranteed, it was fought for and it must be defended.